Crikey! Now, we're not talking about that Crocodile Hunter. We're talking about the original one, Crocodile Dundee, and the Encore cut. Let's talk about it. G'day, it's Adam here again with another quick instant movie review for you. So something a little bit different. The reissue of Crocodile Dundee gets released in May of 2025 and in a beautiful 4K remastering and restoration of the original film, which was written by Paul Hogan and directed by John Corwell back in 1986. This film, my goodness. Paul Hogan's Offsider. John Corwell was actually Strop in his TV show, The Paul Hogan Show, back in the 80s. What's this film all about? Well, the film follows Mick Crocodile Dundee, a bushman who also runs a tour company in Walkabout Creek with his mate Wally, played by John Mellon, who gets tracked down by a reporter, Susan Carlton, played by Linda Kozlowski, from Newsday in New York City. She is investigating the wild story of Mick and how this bushman came to get crunched on by a 20-foot crocodile who took half his leg whilst he stumbled across the Australian outback and back to Walkabout Creek to be able to tell the story in many a pub to many a person that wants to hear it. She wants the scoop, and she also, after she meets Mick, wants to take him back to New York City to continue the exercise to see what it would be like to have an Australian bushman in New York City. And, maybe she's got feelings for him. This film is basically 39 years old. It came out on the 30th of April, 1986, and it had a modest $10 million budget, which was relatively big, I suppose, for an Australian film at that time, and went on worldwide to gross $386 million, making it one of the biggest box office Australian films at that time, and certainly still holds a lot of records when it comes to the box office around the world for an Australian film. It certainly put Hogs on the map, the international map. He was already on the Australian map, but internationally as a star. He followed this up with Crocodile Dundee 2, Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles. He did Lightning Jack. He did a whole heap of other stuff. But this one was the launching pad for Paul Hogan internationally. Crocodile Dundee became a national icon as a result of this film. I remember seeing it when I was like 9 years old in cinema, and I remember the massive posters, the huge ads in the paper, the how long it was number one at the box office for so many weeks. I remember all of the excitement around it, the catchphrases of "That's not a knife, this is a knife." Certainly won a lot of people over and were quoted extensively over the years. Almost every television station around the world had a copy of Crocodile Dundee in some format that was screening it many, many times in their time slots. And when it came to remaster the film for this purpose, for its almost 40-year anniversary, Delvine Delaney, who was not only the barrel girl on Sale of the Century, was also married to the director of this film. Her and her producing partner, Victoria Baldock from Rimfire Films, went all the way around the world to try and find copies of this thing, to try and find the best version of it, to be able to then put it back together in its true format. Now, the interesting thing about this film, not only was it remastered and taken up to 6K to give it a little bit of room to breathe, so then the 4K version is what we're currently seeing. It was also remastered in Atmos, so you've got some amazing soundtrack, and a few new scenes were popped in, being around Kakadu, really, and the acknowledgement of the Aboriginal people and the land in which the film was shot on. So there's an acknowledgement there for acknowledgement of country, and a couple of scenes taken out. One quite, I would say, controversial one. It's only controversial, I believe, in regards to the culture of the film and how it exists, in the fact that it's one particular scene, and maybe I shouldn't even tell you, but it was used extensively for the marketing of this film and became quite the famous moment of Mick Dundee when he's in New York City, as the fish out of water story sort of plays into. It was an interesting choice. And I recently saw a Q&A with Delvin Delaney and Victoria Baldock, who talked about why that scene was taken out. And it was really through consultation, not only with the international and national distributor for the film, but also through Hogs himself, who wrote the story. And he said that it wasn't so much a woke decision to take out this particular scene, it was the fact that his character just wouldn't do it, and he always felt like it was slightly out of character, the way that he treated this particular individual. So you'll have to see the film to find out what scene it is. But look, overall, it didn't diminish anything from this film experience. For me, what was really interesting was to see how much breathing room Crocodile Dundee actually gives the audience. It's quite interesting. Before the feature presentation, which I saw at Gold Coast Film Festival, we had a series of really high impact high impact ads for the Gold Coast. Now, these ads were all beautifully shot, really hyper edited, like within an inch of its life, very loud, really playing on the generation that needs a lot of imagery to get into their brain to really process things, or maybe not to process things. But after that, what was interesting is then we watched Crocodile Dundee that had some phenomenal imagery of Australia and Kakadu, and how much time the filmmakers gave the film to breathe, and those beautiful landscapes to breathe, and the characters to talk through their dialogue. So it really is a film that had a lot more breadth than I remember it having. And that is certainly a credit to the filmmakers, that this film still stands up after all of these years to have that amazing scope and for it still to work up on the big screen. And the really wonderful thing is my daughter saw this film with me. She's nearly 21 years old, and she loved it. She was laughing throughout the whole film, and during the Q&A, it was lovely that they asked her what she truly thought about it, and her reaction to it. So, this is really a film to go and take your family to. If you haven't discovered Crocodile Dundee, it's time to discover the Australian icon. And if you haven't seen it for many, many years, like I hadn't, it's a great time to reinvest into the iconography that was Mick Dundee, and still is, and will be forever woven into the Australian fabric. Yes, there is some, interesting dialogue, but, this film is a time capsule piece of Australia during the 80s and the larrikinism that was on display. Look, I love Crocodile Dundee. I think it's a great, really fun film. If you haven't seen it, definitely go and check out the Encore cut. I would probably give Crocodile Dundee a 7.5 out of 10. It's a really entertaining film, really great fun, and I hope you get a chance to go and catch it. That is it from me for this week, and tomorrow I might just use that line, "That's not a coffee, this is a coffee." Good night.